Welcome to a brand new episode of PonderVision, an MCU discussion podcast. I'm your host, Charlie Ashby, and I'm once again joined by my marvelous co-host, Ash Jefferson.
I don't know why. I love the pun. I love the little pun. It's a very common pun, but I love it. I'm easily entertained.
How you doing?
Doing all right. It's been a pretty good week. A pretty exhausting week, but a pretty good week.
Yeah, it's just been one of those ones where, again, I think the Falcon and the Winter Soldier just catches up on you, and you're like, "Oh my god, this is the finale!"
Mm-hmm.
Like, this isn't just like another normal episode. This is going to be the last time we see MCU content for like 9 weeks. Crazy, right?
Yeah. Whatever will we do?
Well, we couldn't quite discuss the season finale without inviting one of our previous guests on to discuss it. He's one of the co-hosts of the Sith List. It's Gonzalez. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing good. First of all, thank you for having me on. It's really cool. It's another good way to spend a Sunday afternoon over here on our side. So, yeah, I'm doing great.
And did the week go quickly for you, or was it just,
It wasn't so much that it went quickly. It was just you kind of knew it was coming. You know what I mean? Like for me, it was more, instead of it like sneaking up on me, it was like, okay, Monday night's over. Okay, Tuesday night's over. All right, Wednesday night's over. And then like Thursday, like, if you play sport of any kind, it's a game day, it's match day, you get up, you kind of like stretch it out a little, we like stretched it out like, okay, it's Thursday, midnight, it's coming, go to the, went to the gym, got a little pump going, and just, and then you're like you're in the locker room, you're strapping in, you're kitting up, you're getting dressed, and then boom, it's go time. And that's pretty much how it looked. It was more of like a preparing week for me. It was like getting ready for game day, kind of. So it helped. That mentality definitely helped.
It's really interesting because I know, like, WandaVision, that finale, I was like, all day Thursday, I was just like, man, I can't, like, I'm so excited. What's going to happen? And this, I was like, oh yeah, it's 1 a.m. and I'm awake for some reason because I have no sleep schedule. I'm just going to watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Because I feel like with WandaVision, I was like, I have no idea what the hell is going to happen. With Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I was like, yes, all right, we're going to see Sam become Cap. I can't wait to see what his costume looks like. It's going to be awesome. But nothing really like genuinely surprised me, which I think is good. I really like the finale. Like, spoiler alert, I thought it was really good, and that costume is. Oh, we'll have to talk about that. But yeah,
no, it's definitely, it was two different sides of the same coin, I guess. In WandaVision, and I cannot wait for Loki because we're gonna get that whole wacky, cosmic, psychedelic colors. It's gonna be. Your disbelief has to be completely suspended for this, and that's great. It's going to be great.
Like Loki looks insane. I cannot wait. I love when Marvel gets weird. That's my favorite.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, this was this had it for all, whether they intend to or not. It is based in the military. It has a military background. Falcon, Winter Soldier, Captain America's whole deal, and so of course there were policies and other things that were going to be. So you can kind of predict it if you've seen a Jason Bourne movie or James Bond or any, high level spy in espionage kind of thing going on. You kind of can predict what's going to happen.
And I think that's good. I don't think every single like nerd property thing needs to be this like, what's going to happen? Twists and turns. Mm-hmm. I think like a fairly straight-laced, character-focused story is actually a really good thing. Like WandaVision, it worked for that because the whole premise of that show is like, what is going on? This is a Dick Van Dyke thing. Like, what is happening? But this, it's like, no, we're gonna like tell this 6-hour story, and we're gonna get into the characters, and there's not going to be that many things that, I mean, maybe the Sharon Power Broker thing. But even that was like something a lot of people called.
Yeah.
So there's nothing in it that makes you go, oh, like it's all pretty straight. And I actually really enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like with the Power Broker, it's a twist, quote unquote, that we set up. Like there's no.
There was.
The mystery was like they didn't outright say, "Oh yeah, the Power Broker is called John Hamilton." Like,
right.
That's the mystery of it all. But it wasn't like they were setting it up as in this big reveal. So when because they were leaving like obvious breadcrumbs when it came to Sharon, like she literally like picked up the phone.
In all honesty, for me, I really, really resisted that. I resisted that, in my thinking was, look, if they're gonna go for it, this is why if they're gonna mention the power broker, then they should at least introduce the power broker. But I do understand, and so I allowed that understanding of they're not, production wise and sitting in the room saying what can, which characters can we use. They're not going to be able to use them all. Watching Game of Thrones, they have to like amalgamate characters. They had to like there's so many characters. They said, let's just like roll them all into one. And putting that into Sharon, and it was like, she had to do what she had to do. The more you see what was going on, and I don't know if we're going to get to that point, but for her to say, you know what, I got screwed over. I was on the run. I didn't get blipped. I didn't get anything. I had to do the best I could. And from going to fighting high level crime to becoming a high level crime lord, pretty much, it makes sense. So I accepted that for sure.
I think like the problem with Sharon Carter is, right, it's the problem that she was in Winter Soldier and Civil War too. It's like she's completely sorry, Agent 13 fans, she's completely forgettable. She's just a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. Like, there's not. I'm not wrong. As far as in Winter Soldier and Captain America, forgetting everything that happens in the comics, I know her relationship with Steve is much more fleshed out and fully developed in the comics. She's literally just like the blonde chick that Captain America kisses in Civil War. That's it.
She's very good at washing up. Okay, we see that. She's great at laundry. So please don't denigrate her character like that, Ash. Okay, this is the DU Agent 13, the best laundrette in S.H.I.E.L.D.
Wow.
I think for everyone
just not thinking about the particular problematic connotations of you implying that the only female the female lead in this show, the only thing she's good at is doing
only good at doing washing up. I'm joking. She's not even good at that. She drops the washing and starts shooting after Bucky. So she's not even great at that, really. No, I'm joking. Don't forget, you can ask us questions and share your spoiler-free theory. Or actually, you don't have to be spoiler-free anymore, I guess. Because the show's ended. Give us all your theories. I think for this week's episode, because it's the finale, and it's such a dense episode, there's so much to discuss and sort of chew at the marrow of it all. So I feel like it's a great idea to go through character by character and recognize their themes that way. So why don't we, let's kick off with Sharon, because for me, I thought what was really interesting about Sharon in this episode, also this series, is that yes, there's a lot of groundwork for her being obviously annoyed that the government let her go, but there's so many inconsistencies that for me it feels like it's on purpose. Now, for me, the major thing was we see her introduced in this episode with the Winter Soldier-esque mask that Natasha wears. So she could have returned to America whenever she wanted to see her family, which she claimed was a big issue for her. And obviously we know that there's a lot more going on, her being the power broker, her being in charge of Madripoor. And I was thinking about, obviously, the way that these shows connect and how we're building up to certain things. And we talked about, I think, before on the show, like, how Secret Invasion is, how is that going to be implemented? Because we haven't, in the comics, they spent years sort of setting up this storyline. And I think a few people have made this like theory and assumption is that maybe this isn't Sharon and that this is a Skrull. And I thought that would be a really great way to sort of get a character that we know, like you said, Ash, like she hasn't really had the chance to shine much in the MCU. So this way, you're setting up a major storyline that includes a lot of agency stuff, a lot of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, and dealing with that. 2, it gives the opportunity for Emily Van Camp to not only shine as this really cool villainous version of Sharon, but if we were to see the original Sharon make a comeback, it'd be a great way of like having a really great heroic moment of seeing her return and take back
My only thing with that is that I'm fairly positive that Secret Invasion is not going to be Secret Invasion, the comic, because they've set up the scrolls to be so fundamentally different than what they are in the comics. Like Captain Marvel, they're the twist of that movie, right? The quote unquote twist of that movie is no, the scrolls are the good guys. They're refugees, and the Kree are terrible, right?
I
would like to think. So here's what I'm gonna say now that kind of can help with the maybe back up Sharon as possibly doing some type of secret invasion. If I'm not mistaken, in is it Captain America and Winter Soldier, we find that Hydra, right, with Arnim Zola, that Hydra basically infiltrated Shield, like all the way through the whole ranks.
Yeah.
If anything, that would have been the groundwork, or at least at the time before they were able to get the scrolls as a property. I think that was their secret invasion. I really do, as far as the MCU goes. But I also think that what may be changed in this is the fact that maybe Hydra is still doing some things, and now that Sharon's there and she's making phone calls like she did at the end of the show on the finale, saying I have access to this now and I have access to that. Maybe the scrolls, like you said, which I hate, they've been introduced as the good guys, which we all know, especially if they're going to do Secret Invasion, we're like, what are you doing? What? Hold on now. Maybe we're in the head of these producers and we're in the war room with them. Hydra may still be doing this, and then the Secret Invasion series could be the Skrulls invading Hydra on behalf of S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't know, man. It's all wacky.
I'm gonna say my hot take that has actually gotten people mad at me before. I really like what the MCU did with the Skrulls, because I don't think Secret Invasion is all that good. I think once you introduce, I hate the idea of like Elektra was a Skrull the entire time.
Yeah, that's
because then it turns into, well, who else is a Skrull? And then that's some writer can be like, actually, Reed Richards was a Skrull this entire time. I don't remember the specifics, but it's
I get what you're saying, and it can throw some things. It's
and I feel like they didn't actually use the Skrulls to like their best. They didn't actually have the guts to make any like quote unquote like super main characters.
Yeah.
Skrull.
I will say this. So I don't know if have either of you watched Earth's Mightiest Heroes, the Avengers cartoon?
Mm-hmm.
Some of it. I've watched episodes here and there.
They did a really great job of adapting Secret Invasion, in my opinion.
They did, yeah. They did. I will say, yeah.
My thoughts was, I know that was it Talos that mentioned there was like a Skrull group, like a remnant group on Earth, or someone mentioned it like a remnant group on Earth?
I can't remember.
Previous.
My trivial knowledge is not that good. So
I don't remember many things from Captain Marvel, to be honest. So, I remember Mendo being great, and that's about it. And Monica Rambeau. That's all I got.
But maybe she can help with that technology. Maybe Sharon can help get that type of technology to the Skrulls, and they can be like, well, look, we can shapeshift, but maybe to pass detection test or whatever. Exactly. So I could see them drawing a connection or trying to connect her to that kind of thing.
And we know from that Spider-Man Far From Home. I was like, wait, what's the title?
Yeah.
We know from Spider-Man Far From Home that Talos and another Skrull are working with
his wife.
Fury. Yeah, Talos and his wife. Yeah. And we know that the Skrulls are involved because we saw at the end of WandaVision that Monica's involved somehow. Yes. So I feel like there's still potential. I feel like there's still potential for them to do the Skrulls as like a secret invasion kind of thing. If they start setting it up now, we're just not going to get it for a few years,
Yeah, and I think that's my key thing was that cause it reminded me a lot, and I thought a great way of them implementing that actually was in Doctor Who. There's a plot line of the characters, the Zygons, who are also shape-shifting aliens, and they have to live on Earth. But there are groups of them that resent having to like not be themselves. So I know that we saw like the refugee scrolls. So if there were refugees scrolls that lived on Earth and were forced to like blend in, I thought that would be really interesting. Like you could have like, even though they are the good guys, majority of them, you could have a sort of similar like flag smasher sort of situation with these scrolls who are
the disgruntled, the disgruntled rogue group
that would be much
feels
more
abandoned. Yeah, I could see that.
Much more interesting than like the Secret Invasion kind of, at least to me. I don't know.
Well, what I'm gonna say is the Marvel Cinematic Universe has done something to me, for me, and I'm sure for other viewers. The comic book accuracy doesn't weigh so heavily with me anymore, as it used to. And they've been able to pull things off and just give us enough. You know, even in this, Madripoor came up, and I'm like, wait a minute. We're talking about Madripoor. Automatically, my mind went to any type of mutant popping up, most likely Wolverine. And he didn't have to do anything. He just had to be there with his eye patch on, like I told you guys before. That's all he had to do. But just for them introducing, you know, the main hub of all the underworld hub of Marvel Comics is Madripoor. You know, like the international hub. New York is the other one, and then it's like, but it's Madripoor. Like that's where all the badasses hang out. And to bring Sharon Carter, find a way to bring her back in, and everybody, you know, because people were asking, where's she at? What's going on? As much of a background character she is, she's still a major character in a way, and everybody's on their P's and Q's when it comes to that. I really think she wasn't given a lot in this series, but she was given just enough. And I love the fact that they didn't nip it in the bud and say, this is the only season you get. They've left so many things open. And I think they announced another movie, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So not only do we have the power broker back in the ranks and openly within minutes calling her people going, oh, we're in. It's over. Let's go for this.
On the steps of the Senate.
She's walking out of the place. Exactly. Like, I'm not even hesitating. Bam, let's go. And then you still have other character avenues open. I hope we'll get to see more as we talk about other characters, because John Walker's arc was short and sweet, and you're just like, hold on a second. There's some hold on a second, but there should be a little bit more going on there too.
Yeah,
I'm glad we got the USA. We'll have to talk about John Walker and a dedicated thing. I'm glad we got the US Agent segment. I found it weird that they left it on a somewhat positive note for him. I thought that was really weird, but I imagine this is not the last time we're going to see US Agent.
Yeah,
I hope not,
because I know the finale had some mixed reviews, and there's been certain points that really didn't hit with some people, which is understandable. I think currently at Rotten Tomatoes it's rotten by just a tiny sliver percentage. I think it's like 60%, and then it's like 59% is where boundaries are. For me personally, I really enjoyed the finale, and I think what's important about storytelling, especially with this show, is that clearly they're setting up a lot of things for the future. But do I think the story that they've told in this story makes sense? And I feel like for John Walker, yes, it was a bit like, I think we can talk about John Walker now, because I feel like Sharon, there's not much we can sort of theorize.
Yeah, we're done. Yeah, until we get more stuff with her later. Yeah.
So with John Walker, I feel like for me, the biggest misstep in the episode was the joke. There's the little joke he has with Bucky, where it's like about the whole Lincoln speech. I was like, maybe that was a bit too far, because it's jovial, and it also gives the impression that Bucky somehow agrees with Walker by, palling
when
around
it's like
him.
2 episodes we saw him decapitate a man with the shield. Like
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think for me that was the biggest misstep. I actually enjoyed like you said, the ending with US Agent, because yes, it can be viewed as a positive scene, but for me, it's so seeped in toxicity. Val is clearly manipulating John Walker. He's a super soldier. The only reason he's there is because he's a killing machine ready to be told what to do. It's just that as Captain America, he wasn't really told what to do. He was just given a mission and, now with Val, he's probably being given more better instructions and believe that he's doing the right thing.
Where she's like, you can kill all the people you want, John. I don't care.
She classifies it as good. She literally just straight up says, "Oh, our friend Zemo, that was great." Like all that stuff, she's classifying it as good. And in the US's eyes, I guess, it could be considered as good. So I think it's less that they're sort of going, John Walker's good now. He's redeemed. Because I don't think that is the case. He did a good act, which is, good.
I think it's more he just got his head out of his butt crack. And it's more not so much that his ethics is that his ethics are good. That is, he has a good line of ethics. That his altruism is like, like Steve Rogers, like who is like the ultimate in ethics and altruistic behavior. He was always about good and injustice. John Walker's just like, listen, we're the bad guys and I'll go beat the bad guys. Just tell me where they're at and I'll take care of it. I think it makes sense because with the mistake that they totally made with this was when he got back and was court-martialed, they didn't arrest him.
Yeah.
They did not arrest him. That means none of them or someone had to notice, this guy's got the super soldier serum. Where the hell did he get it from? He went over there and took a bootleg version of this stuff that he just found and injected himself with it. There's something wrong here. He should be locked away. But
yeah.
I think maybe we'll eventually see like that it is kind of like a bootleg version of the super soldier serum, like maybe it doesn't like entirely work.
I don't know. I think it's a better version. I don't know if you noticed. I think we talked about this the last time I was on, but the Flag Smashers were just more efficient. They were all very strong. They were all, no real issues. It looked like what's the name of the guy?
Dr.
Nagel made a much better version. It was more optimized. At one point in that one of the confrontation where Walker killed one of the Flag Smashers, if you noticed, when Bucky and Carly leaped down to join the fight, Carly took like one little jump and pile drived Bucky into the ground, and we're like, oh, holy crap, dude. So she was like stronger than him. So I think this is just a better version, but he's not mentally better. He's just he's got the windups are in his own head. I mean, I
wrote a piece just literally yesterday, which I think will be published at some point this week, from the Marvel Report, and it is the history of the super soldier serums. I had to go back yesterday and go through every single movie, TV show, look through wikis to try and get every single bit of information. And you're completely correct. Like the serum that Nagel created was based on obviously the blood samples from Isaiah. So whatever the serum that was created in the 50s, that worked for him, because there was a few different samples that they tested on all the different soldiers. Right. Is definitely like the one that obviously worked, and also doesn't need Vita rays, which I think was the other big issue. Like Steve needed Vita rays to absorb the serum into his cells and hold the strength, whereas Bruce Banner's serum, he used gamma ray, which we know didn't work that well.
That turned out so great for him.
And also Howard's one didn't need Vita rays, but also his version was very, very much not great and created those very strong but mentally unstable Winter Soldiers from Civil War.
Right. And then here's the other thing, and it's going to have to come up because this show pretty much hit on social issues through and through. But I'm going to liken, or at least compare, Walker's whole arc to the bad police officer. And I don't want to say the bad police officer, but basically police officers. And they get into a situation, things escalate, things happen. You get your investigation, so you get placed on your administrative leave. And then all of a sudden you look up and, for the most part, these officers are back on the force. They're right back on the force and right back out. Go, you're good to go. Right back on out there. And
we're not gonna arrest you.
And so here it is. This guy got stripped, great, publicly humiliated. He got put on desk duty. You can liken it to that. And now he just goes and he stays at home and works on himself, quote, works on himself, air quotes, but he's building a new shield, and now it's time to come right back out and, get one patrol beat under your belt. So yes, of course he shows up. He helps turn the tide in the battle. Then, he helps apprehend some people and, saves the day, ultimately joining the squad. And guess what? You're in a new division. You go work. You can continue to work. We'll see you around. See ya. And that's pretty much how it goes. And it's just like, okay, that guy should have been arrested. Like, he should have been arrested instead of allowed to go home. A super soldier who could literally drop from the top of a building with no injuries and fight with the strength of 100 men. You're just going to let this guy, you're just going to tell him, oh yeah, you lost all your benefits and we'll see, you'll never be able to do this again. Come on now. Like, they should have at least arrested him.
I think for me, what I would have liked to have seen as well is if Walker had willingly submitted himself for arrest. So that, because obviously when he enters that fight and enters that fray, he's a civilian. He is. He's a civilian who still has a suit that he should have had to give him back.
And the Sokovian Accords are still a thing too, right?
Sokovian Accords are still a thing.
I think they're still a thing, yeah.
Yeah, because we know that from WandaVision, because Jimmy's like bringing people back to life. It's against the Sokovian Accords.
It's the Sokovia Accords.
I remember that.
That's right.
And I think what's interesting is that, like, if he had done that, he would have shown some at least willingness to, like, complying. But like you said, Les, it doesn't matter because, one, he still murdered the person. And his only repercussion from that action was losing his job and his military pay. But now he's clearly been rebranded under, some organization.
Yeah.
He's definitely going to get paid for that.
He's a special operator now. I think they're called special operators, and you're no longer part of a military service, but you are on the books. And
he's definitely going to be paid more than he.
Oh, he's on the books. Yeah,
and you can see by there was an article that came out, I think two weeks ago, a week ago, where it was like Falcon and Winter Soldier is making a villain out of a war hero, and you can see that in universe, that's probably what they were thinking too. They even say it. Yeah. They're like, because of your exemplary service to this country, I'm not going to recommend that you get arrested right now.
Right,
when he totally should be arrested, right? Like, yeah.
I mean, which is a great parallel, obviously, again to Sam. Sam, who willingly put himself out to protect an innocent person, aka Bucky, and he got arrested and locked up in the worst prison in the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
And
there was because of your exemplary service to this country, we're not going to arrest you.
And even now, I think as we watch the show, we're still not sure that he's officially Captain America. You know what I mean? Like, you see the welcoming to John Walker of, come on in, now you're the U.S. agent. You're just our agent. We're going to use you as a government hammer to go in and do some things. But we don't really get the, hey, everybody, here's our new Captain America, Sam Wilson. It was always supposed to be him. But I think we might get that in the movie. How about we just wait?
Yeah. I don't think Sam is going to be like an agent of the government, though.
Yeah.
Because isn't that a big element of Sam Wilson Captain America, the comic? Yeah. It's like, I'm a Captain America for the people kind of thing.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And Val even has that line where she's like, the government doesn't own the shield. It's a bit of a legal gray area.
Right.
So the government can't be like, he's not Captain America if Sam is going around being a good Captain America,
That's true.
And also, the world doesn't need a Captain America. So basically, John gets to do the exact same job he was doing, but it's just a PR move. It's a rebrand. It's a repaint.
Yeah.
And I can see why people are upset about that, like the idea of there being no repercussions. But I feel like it's true to the nature of what the show has been talking about, which is racism, systemic racism. And we see that again in the way that, say, Isaiah is celebrated at the end. compared to, say, Sharon, both in the eyes of the government, criminal.
Right.
One gets a, like you said, like with John Walker, a board meeting apology and a pardon. Isaiah has to seemingly, I think there is some discussion about this. We'll get into that. He had to pretend to be dead for all these years.
Well, they erased him basically, so he had to stay underground. He could have come back himself, but it's like, when you see when you see how powerful the machine of a government is, sometimes you just don't want to fight, no matter what type of physical power you have. And him being just exhausted, screw it. They kept me locked away. They wrote a letter telling my wife that I'm dead. All my letters I sent to her never made it to her. This is ridiculous. There's what really, your spirit gets broken. And you could see that his spirit was just crushed. And no matter any type of talking, Sam would go to him for advice, and a mentor is like, come on, man, you did this thing. I'm a black man. You're a black man. I could use some advice here. And his thing is, man, don't even do it. Like, what? Don't be dumb. Don't do it. You see what they did to me. They're just going to do the same thing to you. And, for the most part, that is usually true.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, share. But then again, I want to, so the part of me that doesn't want to nitpick, I get it. Isaiah's old. So it's not like he can get pressed back into action. Like, yeah, let's bring him back on and let's really run this old gray dude out there. It's
let's run this 80-year-old man.
Yeah, he's a super soldier. Okay, look, he could probably take down 2 people with like great viciousness. And then after that, it's like, I got to go have some tea and I'm just chilling. I'm good. Like, I'm good, But yeah, to welcome Sharon back and just go, oh yeah, great. You were a fugitive for a long time.
There's even this really interesting component to Sharon's redemption, her hearing, where she's like where they're like, the Carters have served this family or this country,
with great. That's right.
Great. So there's like a nepotism aspect.
I was about to say some
well.
nepotistic seconds of all. Yeah, if anything, there's some nepotism there too.
Where Isaiah just gets completely screwed over.
Right, just of course. Which is it's going to bring. So I mean, if we are talking about Isaiah next, I really think we're going to get more. I really, really, really hope that either we get another season. I mean, I said it multiple things on the Sith List podcast, and I think I've said it here. We need another season, or we need a separate series for Isaiah Walker.
We need like a Young Avengers deal, because I think that could also potentially be a very interesting way to explore more of Isaiah. Is you have Eli, his kid, his grandkid, who becomes Patriot, right? Which the entire show, I was like, now they're gonna have to like, why would Eli become Patriot? Patriot carrying an American flag shield, in the same, same way that like Captain America was. So I thought it was an actually really interesting way to end this show of like, Eli kind of looks up to Sam. Because
that's exactly what's going to happen.
The whole idea of Young Avengers is like, there's Kate, who is like young Hawkeye. Now she's just Hawkeye. There's Iron Lad. There's Wiccan, who really admires the Scarlet Witch, right? Before he even knows that she's his mom, right? There's this whole kind of thing.
No, they parallel. Yeah, they're just saying from their character. Yeah.
Yeah. So now Patriot actually being more inspired by Elijah and Sam Wilson, Captain America, makes it infinitely more interesting, in my opinion, I think.
Well, no, and it also gives you the path to him picking up the shield. Mm-hmm. Because for him to be taken care of, and you're right, for him to be home every day, taking care of his granddad, and, he's cleaning up, and his granddad is just sitting there, and he's like, you know what those bastards did to me? And for him to have to hide that secret himself, I could see where you go, and he says, man, why would I even want to do any of this stuff? Why do I care if they don't care about us? But now that Sam's there, and Sam's been showing up, and Sam's been talking, and you see at the end, the dynamic of him putting his hands on his shoulders, and it's like, now you're going to get this like awesome mentorship, dude.
He also heard that conversation where Sam was like talking to
Directly referencing
Isaiah, and he was like, "Yeah, we built this country, and I'm not going to let anyone tell me I can't fight for it." You know, and Eli is in the background of that. He hears that whole conversation,
and they both heard Sam mention what Isaiah was saying on the news when he talks about the blonde-haired, blue-eyed. So they both know that it's not just words on Sam's behalf. Because it's one thing to be like, "Oh yeah, sure, yeah." Like when you talk to someone, "Oh yeah, I'll do that, whatever." It's another thing to not only speak up to a senator of the U.S. government, but to the whole world on TV. And I think there's a few different things. Now we're talking about Isaiah and Elijah. One thing I really liked that someone mentioned, I think it was Norhao on Twitter, who's awesome, mentioned that every time we see Sam visit Isaiah, it's always in a darkened space. So the first time we see him, he comes out the shadows. It's like a darkened house. The second time he goes to his house, it's at night times. It's all dark. The next time we see him, which is after the speech and after he becomes Captain America, it's in broad daylight. It's bright. There's a brighter future compared to what it was when I thought that was a really great direction on their behalf.
Right.
And I really, really loved seeing that response from Isaiah, not only watching him, but that really, really obvious. Like, I would be flummoxed if somebody watched that episode and did not cry at that scene in the museum. It was impossible. I was weeping.
Yeah, I really had to hold it together. We did our reaction video, and as we were coming up on certain scenes and we get the museum, and I was just like, okay. And you could see me like, you know, just clenching my jaw because I'm like, this is deep. This is cool. We have 3 generations of who's going to wear or at least bear the shield looking at us right now in the MCU. They're not going to have Eli Bradley chilling there and not use him in the Young Avengers coming up. So
there's a reason he's in that group, right?
Yes.
He's
also
yeah. And I honestly, I really, so if they do the Young Avengers, what I need either way is a flashback or some type of look into those missions that Isaiah, you know, just his experience, you know, just to see him, what he had to do, you know, because you're right. What if he got, you know, his typical day could have been, hey man, three of the 300 guys just died, but we need you to go. And he's like, listen, we lost 1, 2, 3 gentlemen in our unit. Oh, but they need me to drop behind enemy lines and go take care of something also later tonight. You know what I mean? So he's got to be a soldier. His people are dying left and right to him. And he's still got to be a soldier that at the end of the day is not appreciated, not acknowledged, you know, and it's just like, oh yeah, and then we're going to run tests on you for the rest of the time. That is something that has to be told.
There's I don't know if you've read or if you've seen.
I've got the description.
The description. It's really cool, I think.
It's really cool.
Yeah, because they said experimented on against their will specifically.
Yes. I'll read that out in 1 second. I just wanted to bring up though as well, like what you're talking about with Elijah, which I think is really important and something that I really hope we get to see in a Young Avengers show or movie, whatever. Which is the idea that I don't think it's already talked about, but obviously, for Isaiah, he escaped prison after 30 years, which was, I guess, like the 80s maybe, or maybe a bit later than that. So it'll be interesting to delve into the family because his wife didn't know he was alive still, and presumably she was pregnant whilst he was away. So I wonder what the family dynamics would be for the child, because this is someone who probably thought their father abandoned them, went to the military, didn't come back. So there must have been some issues there, which I find makes Elijah's background of caring after this grandfather really interesting. And I wonder how that all like that in itself is a whole thing I would love to see. Yeah. But yeah, to read out the plaque, which again is one of those things where you don't like, it doesn't get read out like a voiceover, but the fact that it's in there, I thought was a really great way. So the plaque says, Isaiah Bradley is an American hero whose name went unknown for too long. Isaiah was one of a dozen African-American soldiers who were recruited against their will and without their consent for participation in human testing in pursuit of the super soldier serum. Most did not survive. The few who lived through the testing were sent on secret missions during the Korean War. During the conflict against all odds, Bradley rescued his fellow soldiers and 26 other POWs from behind enemy lines. However, fearful of the ramifications of a black super soldier, some individuals within the government tried to erase Isaiah's story from history. His family was issued a falsified death certificate, and for decades the truth of his unflinching bravery was buried.
Yeah.
Which I was like, what a great wording for that. I also surprised me that he actively says about him being faking the death though, because I was looking at it thinking maybe he's like, everyone thinks that he's dead now, but he's gone there to look at it anyway. But if they know he's alive, I wonder how that impacts his life going forward.
Well, let's hope they just. Here's what I'm hoping. At some point behind the scenes, Sam showed up and is like, "Listen, I know about Isaiah Bradley, and the world knows about John Walker. We need to make both of these right." And what I like is, and this is happening here in our country, I think, is, a lot of accountability. People are starting to call people out and call out people in power or people in certain positions. And sometimes something gets done about it, and then sometimes nothing gets done. But the fact that you didn't stand idly by is probably the thing that is being satisfied the most. For them to say, look, you can't have this dude out here as in John Walker killing people with the dang Captain America shield. And then on the other hand, hide someone who, liberated a whole platoon of soldiers. Like, come on now. There's something up here. You have to put it up there. You got to say something about it. And you got to handle this one too. So for them to even in that plaque, for them to say, yeah, we screwed up. We should have admired his bravery. We should have recognized him. We should have not falsified his death certificate and have his family back home thinking, okay, well, he did die in the war, whether it was brave or, however they described it. And then all of a sudden this dude shows up out of nowhere and he's like, listen, I was in jail for this long. I'm just trying to see where anybody's at. I'm Isaiah Bradley. And they're like, oh gosh, dude, your grandson's over here. And there it is. It's a terrible, terrible thing, but they're making it right. And that's the best they can do right now. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I also think that they have the benefit now of Sam being Captain America and being like, hi, leave this man alone, kind of thing. Yes. Where it's like he didn't have that leverage before, or somebody in his corner, I guess would be the right way to put that. Like, but now he's got Sam, who is Captain America now, and can just be like, hi, if you mess with this man, like, you're gonna have problems. Leave him alone.
Right.
He's been through enough, kind of thing.
I really hope that both Sam and Bucky went back to Wakanda and were like, look, we need the best lawn protection services, like shielding anyone who even dares set on that house trying to get some sort of, violence against that man.
They get shocked, like a shock collar or something like that.
Three Dora-Milajes just walk out. Like, you don't want to do this.
Or they're like stationed at different houses in the community and they're just like out mowing their lawn at the same time and they look at each other, give like a quick signal. Yeah, that'd be great, man. Oh yeah. Just like stop them right there. They're the neighborhood watch. There you go. They're the neighborhood watch. You're like, what are you doing here? Huh? we don't like dudes with black ties. Get out, leave. What are you doing here? Yeah.
Don't even think about touching.
That'd be the greatest community to live in because no gangs would ever get off in there. Nobody would ever really. Yeah, that'd be the best to have the Dora Milaje as your neighborhood watch. Are you kidding, man? It'd be like zero crime, dude. Zero crime, man.
That'd be the best. I think
those ladies would hand you your butt, just hand your ass right to you on the regular.
All they was just walk out, right?
Regularly.
Like, never mind.
They would just happen to whoop the biggest bully's ass, like with 2 quick punches to the chest, and then like just do a pose, and everybody be like, "Yeah, don't mess with those ladies. Those chicas know what's going on, dude. Just chill."
Like a kid would roll up to one of them and be like, I'm getting bullied at school. What do I do?" And then they're like, "Okay, so if you hit him in the neck right here, just collapse."
He'll collapse.
Here's a spear.
Don't worry, he'll wake up 3 minutes later. But let him know.
Hi, do you want a vibranium spear?
Oh my goodness, man! Oh,
He's got
that'd be.
He's got a vibranium fence. It's great. Like
That's it. Yeah.
no going near it. Let's talk about Zemo, who doesn't make too much of an appearance in this episode, but I was just happy to see him at all.
Leaves a pretty lasting impact, though.
He is what we call in the entertainment journalism circles a sneaky little shit.
Yeah.
I love. I know people are like, oh yeah, but he's a horrible character. Like, absolutely, he's a villain that you're supposed to be like, oh, you little rascal. Like, yeah, he's still manipulating stuff behind the scenes. And I thought it was such a great shot because it was such a really great way of you see the tapping on the door and you get the whole one world, one people. So you're like, oh, they're gonna do the generic like these ones escaped. Will they get caught next time? And I'm sure like if it was like any other Marvel movie in the first act of the movie, the sequel, they would be arrested or caught by the Avengers. The same way we get like Crossbones in Civil War.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
They turn that completely on their head, and then we get to see, which I think everyone's calling like Badass Alfred.
Jarvis.
Zemo's, Sokovian Jarvis, who has his little gloves on, his little murder gloves. He's gone out, put a bomb in. It's like,
that took a lot out of him. Did you see him after he pressed the button? He was like,
he's like, not again.
I did it. Okay, I did it.
Too
I'm
old for
done.
this shit.
I'm too old for this. Yeah. That, you know what? I was not expecting that. I really thought, oh man, they're getting away.
Yeah.
Wow, they've infiltrated the politics. You know, like they're just gonna let them go away, and then boom, and I'm like, oh, what the heck? And then I go, who the heck's this old dude? Like he hadn't appeared in it.
I couldn't remember. I was like, is this person connected to Sharon or Zemo? I can't remember.
In my mind, I'm going, is that the power broker? Like doing his own, cleaning up his own mess? And then it goes to Zemo, and he's like, oh, okay. And like he hears it on the news, and he's just like, all right. And I'm just like, this guy, he's obviously the greatest villain in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. By far, he destroyed the Avengers from within. He, leading to what we have now. He totally did that. Destroyed the Avengers from within. Manages to escape. Bucky's like, listen, he's a necessary evil. He manages to come out, operate, influence again, wipe out more super soldiers so that there isn't, crazy enhanced people running around out there. So he pretty much had a hand in wiping that whole sect out, and he's just back in there with his books and just chilling. And at some point he'll just get broken out again, and then he'll be leading the Thunderbolts pretty soon. So yeah, few people are in better position right now than Baron Zemo in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
He's got a comfy bed. He's got his nice little books. Like, I'm sure he gave another book out to the butler. I was like, you may like this book. So it's like, please blow up the super soldiers. Like,
that's right. That's right.
I will try.
Yeah, and we know his story is not finished. He's going to be around for a while.
Well, we know who runs. We know who runs the raft, and that's Thunderbolt Ross.
Yes,
which I think if you've got a group of villains already locked up in there,
and Ross is probably not too angry about Zemo breaking up the Avengers, right?
No, of course not. Not at all. And it's funny. We need to start. I think we should start this movement now. We can't. Can we not call the Thunderbolts the Suicide Squad? Because listen, there's casual fans out there, and I think on this one we got to gatekeep. I'm sorry, I'm just going to call it out, man. We got to find a way to be that actually guy, because the Thunderbolts and the Suicide Squad are just two different things. It may be easy to explain it that way to people that are like, so what's up with the Thunderbolts? It's like, well, they're former villains, and then they
it's like
then they ended up just being good just to be good, and they're basically all good guys now. They're a great super team, and it's like, oh, so like the Suicide Squad is like, No, those guys are still bad. They want to be bad. They just happen to have a bomb in their neck that'll blow their head off. They still want to be
it's two completely
bad.
different vibes, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah, King Shark still wants to be bad. Like he's not gonna be like, oh, I can be a hero now. Deadshot
like,
will still go to the highest
would,
bidder.
He's like, no, I would like to eat people, please.
That's it. Yeah. Whereas the Thunderbolts truly, well, I guess they did. So they've turned over a leaf to enough. They don't have to be forced to do what they're doing, basically.
Apart from Zemo, who's like, oh yes, I'll lead them, but also we should murder people. It's like,
right.
Maybe not.
We're taking that on. We're going to take that on. So.
Yeah, like I think for me, like it's easier to make the distinct, like the similarity between Suicide Squad and the Thunderbolts compared to, I think, like if you can remember way back in 2014, where I guess 2016 actually, where the big thing was like Guardians versus Suicide Squad because they were both unknown properties from DC and Marvel. So there's this whole thing where it's like they're the opposite. I'm like, no, it's not that works.
Yeah.
But
you have to prepare yourself to explain to a lot of your casual friends, listen, there's the Suicide Squad and there's the Thunderbolts. They're same but not the same. They're villains that are doing some good things.
They're kind of slightly based off of each other, but not really.
Not really, yeah.
But I just really want to see, obviously, Baron Zemo in the group. What other characters do you think they could include? I think, obviously, if they did Ross as Red Hulk, that would be...
And I don't know how that works with the deal with Universal, though. Because I don't know if they're going to be able to have... Right? They're doing She-Hulk. I mean, if it's just Banner Hulk, then I think they have Ross, so they can have Ross.
I think it might just be Hulk. I think it might just be like
So if it's just Banner, then I have no issue with that.
Be like just Hulk movies because he can show up in Ragnarok because that's a Thor movie.
Yeah, I think it's Hulk movies. I think the deal is that it's only Hulk. And he can show up in team ups. He cannot have a solo of any type. So,
which is ridiculous.
I'm honestly not that sad about it. Solo Hulk movies really don't do it for me.
You know what? Some of them did for me, but it sucks that they're in control to be able to tell those stories, and now they don't have the rights to them. So.
Look, I just want
Liv
Tyler back as Betty Ross, and I want to see Liv Tyler. I want to see what's his name back as Samuel Stearns. I want to see
the leader. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
the shenanigans. I want to see.
Yeah, the Ed Norton movie wasn't bad. The Ed Norton movie was pretty solid.
It was solid. Defend the Incredible Hulk until the day I die. What a great film! It's also the only. I think someone said it's like the horniest Marvel film, maybe. That has the most
Iron Man exists.
No, but it has the most kissing in a Marvel film is in the Incredible Hulk.
Also, I feel like
yeah.
I feel like WandaVision now is kind of. I don't know if that counts as a Marvel movie. I feel like the horniest thing in the Marvel universe.
I think is WandaVision. Yeah, you gotta. Yeah.
Okay, I'll give that. But I think the Incredible Hulk is one of those. Like, I'm so excited about that they're actually going to delve back into those elements. Like we saw, Abomination is coming back. We see Ross obviously in different films.
Yes.
Just give me Liv Tyler. Please. Can we just forget the whole Natasha Hulk thing? That never happened.
I mean, she's dead, so.
Yeah, but he knows how time travel works.
Come back, it's open for Betty now. It's all good.
And poor Ty Burrell as Dr. Samson. Remember that character when he showed up?
I know who Doc Samson is, but he obviously didn't even stick out.
He was married to Betty, I think, or at least.
That's right. In time, that's right. He called the authorities. Of course.
Classic. And again, one of the best ever characters in the whole MCU appears in The Incredible Hulk, which is Roger Harrington, aka Peter Parker's teacher.
That's right. And they drew that. Didn't they connect all of that?
Yes, they confirmed that he is the same person. So the guy that Bruce Banner gives pizza to in The Incredible Hulk is Peter's teacher from Spider-Man Homecoming and Far From Home. And also, Another
I'm
random
not quite
connection.
sure how we got here. I feel like we should talk about Bucky.
Yeah, I was about to ask if we could go to Bucky. Yeah,
we'll get to that.
let's go over there. But yeah, you're right.
I feel like
also-
somebody has to be like, okay, we need to get this train back on the track.
I'm just a guest.
But also, Peter's head teacher in Spider-Man: Homecoming is also the descendant of the Howling Commandos. So there you go.
That's right. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
But yeah, Bucky. Speaking of the Howling Commandos, see, I was working to it.
There we go. There we go.
Bucky Barnes. What do we think about his character arc this season?
I thought he was pretty good. There wasn't much. I think like the idea of him, making amends was kind of his character arc. There wasn't like a ton of. Sam is the one with like the true growth and change. Bucky kind of already went through that off screen.
I think it was a mixture. Like, I really think there was a lot of character arc this season. I think it was more nuanced than maybe like in terms of like, I think it's like much more subtle than Sam's because obviously he's the, I would argue, main character of the show. So I know for me, like, one of the things I really love about Sebastian Stan is the way he acts very subtle in those moments. But like, you see, obviously starting off, there's a lot of callbacks in these last 2 episodes to the beginning of the show. It's like we said last week when the therapist asks Bucky if he's having nightmares still. He says no. When Sam asks him, immediately he tells him. And we see that relationship develop, and the trust is there. And he does respect Sam. The one thing he asks for in the first episode is that he wants a place he can feel free and to be himself. And in the final shot of this episode, we see him happy as can be, content. He's found a place he can call home.
Where he can flirt with Sam's sister.
He can flirt with Sam's sister.
And get some pecan pie. How about that, y'all? I saw that and I was like, oh, that's the South. Oh, they're going to welcome you in and they're going to feed you fried food. They're going to feed you boiled greens boiled in pork of some type, and pecan pie or red velvet cake. You're going to get you're going to get attacked.
I'm from the South, and it made me be like, man, I miss like barbecues.
It was like he walked in there, and I really wanted him to slice that cake he brought because it was red velvet. Somebody told him, if you bring in cake in here, it's either yellow cake with chocolate frosting or it's red velvet. That's it, man.
Sam
you bring some carrot cake in here, somebody's gonna hit you and throw you over the side of the boat. That's that.
Sam gave him a lowdown before. He's like, listen, you cannot embarrass me at this cookout.
Because I'm telling you right now, it's either you bring it, if you're bringing cake, because we don't do a lot of other stuff in the South. We do cobblers, we do crumbles, we do pies, and we do just 2 types of cake, really. If you bring any other mess over here, you're getting chucked, dude. What are you going to do here? So, and he walked up with like the biggest buttercream frosted red velvet cake, and he just like, hey, everybody.
I remember one time I went to a cookout in the South, the guy I was dating, and some kid brought oatmeal raisin cookies. And everyone was like, he got like attacked for the rest of the day. It was, and everyone else was just like, no, you can't do that.
My mother, my mother, she passed away recently, a couple years ago, and she's from Mississippi, and she was like, listen, son, when you go down there, you better know how to fry your chicken and your fish. You better know that grits can be savory, and you better know how to cook your grits. And we don't do oatmeal raisin cookies. It better be chocolate chip or sugar, and that's it, dude. Like, do not go in there with no oatmeal. And to this day, I'm like, I will never touch an oatmeal raisin cookie ever because I know better. And you got to know how to make your mac and cheese. You just got to know those are your basics that'll get you invited to any cookout. If you can do any of those things, you're safe. I'm giving you guys the tips out there to be invited to any cookout and season your food. All right. So, Bucky's going to learn how to season with his left arm. So he can't really, I don't feel it. So this has got to be enough. Just drop it in there.
It's the salt guy, man.
Bucky grew up in like the Depression. So, he's used to eating like boiled chicken.
Oh, man.
That Sarah's going to be like, listen, white boy, we're teaching you how to season your food correctly.
and I think his arc was more of a supplemental arc for Sam because he was Sam's biggest cheerleader
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He was like,
Yeah.
dude, you should have never dropped the shield. What are you doing? You know? And then he even apologized later as Sam was starting to take up the shield and all the pressure that comes with it. He's like,
Yeah.
I didn't know. He's like, which is weird because you grow up in the 30s and you go to war in the 40s. Racism is prevalent. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a normal. It's the most normal way of life. You know, there's definitely, you know, he even probably felt it, but I get it. When you watch Captain America: The First Avenger, the Howling Commandos are probably the most diverse squad
Yeah.
in all of the military at that time. And when I watched it, I'm like, that's not true. And then I'm going, oh, it's the Howling Commandos. They're going to do that. And I'm like, but come on, they were segregated for the most part, especially if you were black. You were not fighting with other units if you were fighting at all. So, and I get it. Bucky's life was totally different. He's been locked away. He was brainwashed. You know, he didn't experience a lot of things. He wasn't allowed to grow a certain way. So this is like his second childhood. And yeah, for him to be like, that's my guy. If my best friend loves this guy and found a way to, and let's be honest, Sam's background as a counselor for PTSD and for veterans,
Mm-hmm.
Steve really respected that. Whether he said it or not, the conversations they had when they first met, those were sessions. Those were counseling sessions, you know? So now it's time for Bucky to get those. And you know what? Sam gave it to him. Sam gave him a couple of hard ones.
Sam's the only one that gets through to him in the end. I think
Right.
that's the really important thing. Sam's the one that's like, listen, dude, what you're doing right now isn't working. It's not making amends. You're
Right.
avenging. You know,
And go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, sorry. I think Sam and Bucky ultimately both respect each other as well, because not only did Sam put his own life on the line to defend Bucky's life, but also vice versa. Bucky realized that this man who he doesn't even know put his life on the line to defend him. And they both respect Steve Rogers and his judgment.
Yes.
And so they're not, even in the beginning, like even though they bicker and fight, they both still respected each other. The thing was that as the series progressed, we see obviously, like, I think Bucky learns a bit more about the pressures of the shield and how systematic, like you mentioned, like, yeah, he grew up in those times, and I know that like Steve Rogers' family is like Irish and stuff, so obviously like his best friend dealt with probably abuse and stuff, not to that extent, but obviously still. And I think what's interesting is seeing him like in the 50s, he's like fought Isaiah and stuff. I don't think he actually ever really thought about the repercussions of that. Like obviously he knew that he fought this man. He probably knew how, like, where to find him and stuff. Probably because he was on his list. But yeah, there's so much there that I really enjoyed about seeing Bucky learn from all this. And we see in the beginning of the show, he's very closed off. He doesn't smile. He's got so much trauma. He's got so much, guilt. Once he lets go, he tells everyone what happened to their loved ones, explains himself. And even before that bit, like we see him when he sees Sam's cap, he smiles so much. He smiles so much throughout the last two episodes. And he also, like the things he does, like he covers up his arm. He wears a glove, he covers up his arm. When he goes into action mode, he sort of rips the jacket off to be like, well, I'm going into my Winter Soldier mode. Yes. I can't acknowledge this part of myself. I don't want to acknowledge this part of myself because I feel guilt from that. In the finale, he's actually got his hand out. He's got his arm out.
He's holding the kids up. Yeah, that was so great.
He takes his jacket off. He doesn't rip the arm off. He's comfortable with himself now. And I think that's his core arc.
I think one other thing too, when you're Bucky and you spend time in Wakanda, which compared to the MCU, compared to the United States of the MCU, is a utopic society.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They don't have war. They're highly advanced, technologically advanced, and he just got to do farm stuff. You know what I mean? He was just folding and chucking bales of hay like any other farm boy, and I could see where he may have seen the comfort in being black as far as what he sees for Sam. And why he's like, dude, you should be able to pick up the shield. It's not that big of a deal. And it's like, nah, man, it's different out here. Like, it's very different out here than wherever the hell you were at. And when you have to look over your shoulder constantly, and this is in regards to being Sam and, being a different race than any other country in the world. If you're black and you're in the diaspora and you're black in England, or you're black in the Netherlands, or you're black in France, black in America, you have to look over your shoulder constantly. There's a target on you, whether you asked for it or not. And it's another thing if I'm living in Lagos, Nigeria, I may not have to feel as like, I may not have to look over my shoulder as much because everybody looks like me. And I don't have to worry about, facing racism or prejudices from, Latin people, Asian people, white people. Me, myself, I'm light skinned, so I could get it from my own cousins who are dark, and they'd be like, oh, shut up, man, you white anyway, and make fun of me just because of how light I am compared to them. So I could see where Bucky is always like, dude, just pick the shield up, man. You're the guy. Steve believed in you. Who cares if no one else believes in you? I believe in you. We believe in each other. Let's go, man. I'm your best friend. I got this. And it's like, nah, man, you really don't know, man. You really don't know.
And I think it was really interesting. The thing that really inspires Sam at the end of the day, I don't think is necessarily Steve. He does that during. There's not a lot of conversations about Steve in the show from Sam, right? The thing that kind of inspires him is like Isaiah, really, which I think is really good because he sees Isaiah and he goes, I'm not going to let what he went through be for nothing. That's like specifically what he says to Sarah last episode was like, what would be the point of all of that pain if I didn't do something with this? Right. And I think Bucky in the end isn't inspired by Steve. At the beginning, he's like, Steve believed in you. But by the end of it, he's like, no, I believe in you. Yes. Like you're Captain America. Because of you, not because of Steve, not because of what Steve thought. That I think that's the whole like kind of thing going on in the background is they both had to realize that what Steve wanted is not the most important thing in the world. And he was not the guy that was 100% right, all of the time.
Yes, but also he did have good judgment in the people that he chose, which is, like you say, it's just, I think, a quality of himself and something that I feel like both those people can appreciate as well in themselves. That's why they gel so well together, as they're both veterans, they both put their life on the line for the greater good. And that's why Steve felt such a rapport of them. And I think, I think you made a really great point about Sam, actually. Like, at the beginning of the show, he refuses to pick up the shield. Obviously, there's a lot of the racial aspect of that he doesn't want to talk about. But a lot of it is also, Steve was the person that he looked up to. And at the beginning, he was like, no, this is Steve's shield. And I think
that shield it feels like it belongs to somebody else, right?
Yeah.
Like that's.
Whilst at the end, I feel like through the journey, he's not doing, like you said, it's not doing it for Steve. He's the symbol for America. He's what America should be. And I think that's what's so great about his, like, again, like his costume. We'll talk about his costume, which I think you brought up earlier, Ash, is incredible. It's straight up from the comics. And to me, what I love about that is there's so many aspects of the costume that I love. First of all, yes, there's elements, I guess, of the original Captain America costume. Obviously, it's Captain America. But it's still fundamentally Sam Wilson's costume. It's got the wings. It's his costume.
It's a different color palette. I mean, there's the red, white, and blue, but when we're talking about like main primary colors, white on Sam's suit is the one that's the most obvious, right?
And what I'm going to say, I'm sorry. What I'm going to say is, so the philosophy that a lot of African Americans go by is we can't allow what our predecessors went through to be in vain. So even in our everyday life, like most Black Americans, it may be different now, but for me, my generation, when I was growing up, my mother would tell me every day I went out of the house, you be careful out there. there are things that people have done and died for to allow you just to be able to walk outside without me worrying about you. And you better not ruin that. That is a legacy they leave. You know, a lot of civil rights leaders fight for certain things and get snuffed out because their voice is loud and people are joining the movement and they see what they're talking about and they want to do more to better that situation. That's probably what they saw with Isaiah Bradley, is now he can come back after the Korean War and be like, me, Captain America, am not riding those buses until they say everybody else can ride the buses. Black people shouldn't have to sit in the back. I'm Captain America. I was in the front of the war. I was at the front facing all those bullets. We get to ride on the bus whenever we want to. Everybody should be able to do so. You know what I mean? Could you imagine him coming back and being that civil rights activist who could also literally like lift a tank? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no way. That's too powerful. So, of course, absolutely, the parallels are there. It's just this man went before me and I can't allow what he did and everything that he worked for, whatever his actions were, they will not be in vain. I'm going to do everything he did and I'm going to defy that. I defy them to erase me. I defy them to, I stand in front of you and say, are you going to erase this? You can't. You cannot do it. There's absolutely no way. The history books can say what they say, but he said it. We built this country. You know what I mean? That monologue, I take it we're doing Sam's arc now, right? So
yeah, let's just go into it. Yeah.
that monologue alone, and I'm getting emotional now, but it's like people may say it's too preachy or whatever, but come on, look at what we're looking at and what we're talking about. Captain America. You know what I'm saying? Look at the Rotten Tomatoes score. Sam Wilson is Captain America. The Rotten Tomatoes score isn't through the roof. People, he said it. There's people that are watching me right now that do not like this, that hate my guts. Like, what the bleep is that guy doing with that shield? And why is he wearing that costume? Whatever, And it's like...
there's still people being like, why isn't it Bucky?
Right. Or it's, why isn't it Bucky? Or, you know what? Walker wasn't a bad guy after all. He did what needed to be done. And it's like, you're willing, instead of saying, let's give this guy a shot, let him do his thing. No matter how many people in the scenes leading up to that were like, oh, dude, Captain America's here. Oh, my God. They weren't saying the Falcon or Sam. They were going, oh, my God, Captain America's here. Hey, that's Captain America. Like, who's that? What do we call him? That's Captain America. Like, hello? And in that monologue, he says it. I may not look like what the exceptional idea is of an American. Blonde hair, blue eyes, the picket fences, the nice house, the nuclear family, as they were called. That's not everybody. It's different. Most of the world is very diverse. You know what I mean? Yeah. A lot of our, places are very diverse. There's a population of multiple races and creeds and colors on most of the land on this planet. So it's like, we're all here, and he said it. He's just going to do the best he can for who he has to. It's not like I don't need to please, everybody. I need to just be the best version of this, and I'm going to do that. And as best as I can do it. And if I can't do it anymore, then it's over. That's it. Like, that's it. I mean, a lot of people don't like the monologue. They're like, it's a little preachy. And I'm like, it's exactly what is needed. And I'm so glad. And I admire Marvel for having the balls to say, listen, we already know what we're doing here. It's staring him in the face. I'm going to say it again. A black dude picks up the red, white, and blue shield and is standing triumphantly as Captain America. There's a lot of people that have a problem with that.
That monologue was almost, I think, speaking directly in a kind of meta way. I think that monologue was speaking directly to the audience. Like, hey,
flat out.
We know that some of you are going to hate this.
Oh, flat out.
Who the fuck cares? Like,
that's right. That's right.
And I really appreciated that Marvel. The things that I enjoyed about WandaVision and this show the most is that I've always felt with the MCU that they've never really had the guts to, like, they didn't do Tony's alcoholism. right?
They lightly touched on Tony's alcoholism. He was drunk and he like blasted a rocket off, and it was like
party.
Yeah, he got drunk once, which is not like an indicative of an alcohol issue, right? Like they were afraid to do Demon in the Bottle. They kind of like lightly did it. But this, they're like, no. And WandaVision too, they're like, nope. This is we're getting into this because we need to, because a story like this wouldn't work if Sam just could be like, okay, I'm Captain America now, you know, like there needed to be that conversation about what that actually means.
And I'll be honest, I think this can be more impactful than using the mutant allegory, than having the mutants as the hated outcast and this is racism kind of thing. For the most part, it's a real, now that we're talking live action, this is more than anything going to smack people right in the face.
Well, there's
more than anything. So,
well, there's that component of the mutants, right? Where the mutants are this allegory for,
oppressed people.
I was trying to find the right word. Thank you. But a lot of them are white. It's the same thing. Like, I'm really glad I mentioned this when we were doing the WandaVision episodes. I'm really glad that like WandaVision didn't go into the whole element of like Vision and Wanda's relationship being hated by people, because when you have two white actors doing that, the allegory doesn't hit as hard, you know? Because at the end of the day, Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen are two white people in a heterosexual relationship. There is that subtext more so in the comics of like, you know, it was clearly
an android. Yeah.
It was clearly
what
an
are you doing with a robot?
It was clearly an allegory for like interracial relationships and queer relationships and stuff. But that it doesn't hit when you basically, I mean, they're two white people in a heterosexual relationship like that. It doesn't hit the same. No, and I've always kind of felt with the mutants that it works more as an allegory for maybe queer folks. Maybe that's the direction it needs to go into.
It may end up going in that direction, and that's fine. Because again, and here we are, if you try to pass off this, okay, and like you said, they're all white, mostly white. So if you have James McAvoy, Nikki Holt, you know, walking around, people are going, oh, they're fine. You know, Evan Peters is Quicksilver. It's like, oh, they're fine. And then it's like, yeah, but no, we're talking about the guys who have blue skin and the ones who have scales. It's like, no, but we don't really care about them because it's so easy to swallow.
I think that's why it works for their queer allegory, right? Because they, you know.
Yes, so that would be the way it works. But I think the fundamental was, so it's there's passing and non-passing, I guess. And think about it in terms of people of color. So like for me, technically, I'd be more of a passable black person because I'm light-skinned and I have green eyes. If I grow my hair out and put a perm in it, I can comb it to the side. I may look a little Hispanic. You know what I mean? But my brothers are really dark and things are different. They cannot navigate the same circles as I can and get into the same groups or places and gain access. Now, with what you're saying, it would make sense then, because that would be the case as far as you allegorize with me, you know, that the blue-skinned mutants or the ones with devil horns sticking out of their heads can't get access to certain things because of how they look. Now I get what you're saying, like with the queer allegory, it's like, okay, and anyone can dye their freaking hair. Come on, people, don't be like freaking out. You're like, oh, that person must be queer because their hair is blue. Don't be dumb. But I get it. Yeah, the more eclectic you look, the more people are gonna go like give you the side eye, and that would be for the mutants for sure.
Whereas there's also the element of like, right, like I can go outside and nobody is gonna be like, that's an asexual person. I've gotten them. Like, I have pink hair and but at the end of the day, I can go outside and because I'm a white person, right? I can go outside and I'm not going to face the same kinds of things that other marginalized people are going to face.
Oh yeah, you know? You get a few more minutes in the conversation. You get a few more minutes of duration in the conversation before somebody looks at you like, wait, what? Yeah, exactly.
And it's like I'm disabled as well, but I have an invisible disability. So I feel like that allegory works we're getting into the mutants now. I apologize, but I feel like the X-Men allegory works better for something like that more than an outdated kind of
It does. It totally does.
Right?
Whereas
I might be out of line with that, but that's just kind of my
it's agreeable. It's totally agreeable, and it's there. And that when we get to live action and adapting those pages, so that's why Sam holding that shield and standing tall as Captain America speaks to something else, and it speaks to what we can really tie it to. So I'm much more happier and pleased with it happening here in Falcon and Winter Soldier than trying to be like, yeah, guys, X-Men is supposed to be an allegory for oppressed peoples and for racists and racism. People are going to be like, yeah, right, they're all white. Look at them. They're all the majority of the awesome characters are white. The awesomest, most popular character is a white man, a hairy white man. You know,
the two leaders of the groups are notoriously two white people.
Yes, and the other one is this clean-cut Boy Scout that if you take his visor off and put his glasses on, he's a good-looking dude. He's Apple Pie America, Scott Summers, and hairy ass, super aggressive Wolverine. You know, like those are your two you get those two parallels, your most popular character and your leader, and boom. And
well, it's like the same. It's like the same thing with Star Wars, right? Like Star Wars has done a couple things with Twi'leks specifically, right? Like Twi'leks are this oppressed people. It doesn't hit the same when they're all voiced by white people. Like it's like maybe some actual racial diversity in Star Wars. If you want to tell that story, maybe please, right. Star Wars, thank you. Instead of just being like, oh, they're aliens.
And I think as far as this goes, now we get a full origin story for Sam Wilson. He had his heroic moment saving that truck and proving himself through that strength, and then proving his diplomacy, and also saying, listen, I know not everybody's going to be happy that I'm doing this, but I'm doing this. And you know what? If you got my back, I got yours. As simple as that. Let's go forward. We have to do the right things. And you know what else this show has done is open our eyes to the other elements of, I mean, we could get caught up in the superpowers and all that stuff, but people lost their lives. People lose their homes. Like, it answers that question of collateral damage. Uh-huh. You know, literally we're watching, you know, all these shows and movies and people are getting, you know, they're fighting and buildings are collapsing and all this other stuff. But it's like, okay, what's happening on the ground floor? Dude, Thanos came out of nowhere and we didn't ask to get snapped away. Hell, man, I was playing baseball with my son. You know what I mean? Like, Hawkeye was playing doing the bow lessons, and all of a sudden his whole family got snapped away. Like, can you imagine the trauma, the whole issue of like...
And then you have a situation like with Monica where she snapped, her mom thought she was dead, and then her mom died in that 5-year period. You know, and I really like that they're getting into the blip and the more like specifics of the blip, but it also retroactively makes Tony Stark look real bad, like, because he's kind of directly responsible for that.
I mean,
I think it makes Star-Lord worse. I think now you have to say, why the bleep did he do that? But then again, it also goes back to Zemo basically destroying the Avengers and splitting them up so badly that they were not united to be able to figure out how to take this down. And the world is picking up those pieces, the universe, the galaxy, they're picking up those pieces. And in the aftermath of fixing all of that, it's time for leaders to step up. And Sam Wilson is a leader who's stepping up. Steve Rogers is not there. You guys tried it. You tried the blonde hair, blue eyed, all American. This is who we send up. You know, this is who we want the world to think of when they think of the red, white, and the stars and stripes. This is what American exceptionalism is. And it's not, you know, it's just not. Ash and I are just as American as anybody else. Mm. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't stand 6'3" and, you know, have gold flaxen hair, but I'm an American. And if someone says something to me, I mean, I'm not going to be that aggro, but you know what I'm saying? I'm proud. I'm proud to be American. I am. I'm wearing this, you know, I wanted to serve in the military. I am as American as anybody else, just like, and we're going to bring this one in, you know, Superman said in Man of Steel, I'm from Kansas. I'm as American as it gets. You know what I mean? Yeah. But that's not just America. There's more, you know, there's Louisiana, there's shrimp boats.
He may not have been born on Earth, but he was raised in America, so he's an American,
and he was raised in the heartland. You know, this whole thing about the heartland, and that's what Sam's saying. He's like, "Look, I'm Captain America for America. for Americans. Yes, does it sound political? Does it sound like,
It's not
some
even-
campaign manager?
It's no more preachy than Steve's speech in Winter Soldier. That's
Also-
the thing.
There you go.
Sam Wilson in the comics is literally the son of a preacher man.
There you go. There you go.
So when people are like, he sounds preachy, I'm like, yeah, that's what his dad was.
Listen, as a pastor's kid, that shit seeps through your brain.
Oh man! And then I have to say this. So one thing he said in this finale, just for the hood in me, the black in me, when he's like, "Oh, you gonna get this ass whooping?" I was like, "Oh my goodness! Thank God we have a superhero that is willing to just talk like he should talk, baby. You're in a fight, dude. And if you're in a fight, it's all gonna come out, man. You just let the juices flow." And he's like, "You'll get this ass whooping."
You know what I like? It's not quippy. It's not Joss Whedon-y quippy.
Nope.
It's not Iron Man quippy where he's like throwing smart, clearly pre-written lines. It's like, no, I'm gonna beat your ass.
No.
Get over
this is Anthony Mackie probably saying, "Hey man, I felt like that line worked. I'm gonna say it, keep it in the show." And they're like, "Oh yeah, you go right ahead, dude. This is your deal, man."
I also did love when he jumps out the window. It's like au revoir to the betrothal. But
how much can I get for your fancy bird suit? I don't know, maybe a baguette, a few French fries.
Okay, first of all, I will say this: I felt that was insensitive. But then again, I looked and I'm like, guys, they're in the heat of battle. They're fighting. They're going to talk smack. They're going to talk smack.
I feel like we can make.
I was like, hold on. I was like, hold on.
Ingrained into my DNA to make fun of the French. So
I get it. But I was just like, ooh, that probably pissed some people off. And then I was like, but they're fighting, man. Who cares, man? They're going at it, dude. So yeah, a baguette and a couple of French fries. I was like, oh.
But again, I liked that it wasn't constant quip. Like Iron Man, as much as I love Iron Man for that specific content and the type of character that he is, it doesn't work for everyone. And I think they tried to bleed that into other characters that they necessarily shouldn't have done that with. It works for Spider-Man. Spider-Man always throwing quips is like a distraction.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But but not every character is going to be like that. Bucky's not going to be the one that's like throwing out like dumb jokes, and he doesn't. Right. I really liked that.
And I hope so. They gave Sam 2 heroic moments. One that he had to figure out and like actually use his brain and use everything and think it through in the helicopter scene. And then they gave him the other one, which defied everything because he doesn't have super soldier serum, where he catches that truck and he uses his wings and he uses the Red Wing drones. What I'm going to say is I really think that Wakandan suit is like reinforced. And it's I think we're going to find out that there's like some type of reinforcement in the fiber, in the molecules in the suit. They're going to use the unstable molecules.
It's like woven with vibranium and it's
and so it helps him absorb some punishment like T'Challa's suit, and it may even enhance his strength exponentially. So it may not be to, great super soldier lengths, but he should be able to survive holding a truck. My disbelief and my margin for error is going to be like, that's what Wakanda did. Shuri and them are not stupid. They're going to be like, look, man, this brother has no powers and we need to do him a favor. If he's going to be Captain America, we got to give him the best we can give him and give him every advantage, baby. Here you go.
Shuri's like, I like Bucky and Bucky likes him. And if this guy dies, Bucky's going to be real sad about it. So we got to make him like the nicest suit.
Yeah, because we're going to have to fix Bucky again. This is the second time.
She's like, I don't want him to take another extended vacation here.
I know Shuri for sure was sitting there going, come on now. Are we really going to give him something less than Bucky's arm? We got to give him, we got to go for it.
Really
she's like, we're doing this.
I really like that now, like Wakanda is like their tech support now. It's like Bucky just calls it a few favors, like, hi.
And some people had issue with that. Go ahead, Charlie. I'm sorry.
Well, first of all, I just want to shout out Raving Bob, who put Senator had his ass and into him. Absolutely, that douchebag Senator completely got, thank God he got talking to by Sam. I think what's really interesting, though, actually, about the Wakandan element is that, well, first of all, someone mentioned, like you said about the truck, like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, Tony Stark managed to create a suit of armor that had agility, like strength improvement in 2009 in the MCU timeline. This is now 2024 in the MCU timeline.
It's totally possible.
And that's not even mentioning the fact that Wakandan technology is way ahead of American technology.
Oh man, it's on intergalactic level. Yeah, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, the comic books are the intergalactic empire of Wakanda.
Absolutely.
If I'm not mistaken, T'Challa's the leader of the intergalactic empire of Wakanda.
And we already know that Shuri is capable of making tech like exponentially better than Tony Stark ever could.
Oh,
yes, and
sure.
the jet propulsion is obviously much better than we saw.
It was elsewhere. So clean. It was like clean energy propulsion.
Remember, right? he left Louisiana in the last episode and got to New York within
minutes. It had to be minutes. Yeah, for sure. That was. Yeah, go ahead.
And the other thing was what I really did appreciate about Sam's costume is that it's again fulfilling the promise that T'Challa made against his father, and doing what Killmonger was talking about. Like the whole point was that Wakanda doesn't help out the rest of the world when they could have done, and like you mentioned earlier, Les, like. Yes, Black Panther is awesome, but he's also one, royalty, and two, in a nation where black people weren't treated the same way they are everywhere else in the world. So for Sam, an African-American man, to have this, amazing technology and great super suit and all this tech and like support from Wakanda now is everything that I think Killmonger was trying to push forward and help fight back against that obvious and gross.
Yeah, well, he had world-crushing intentions, but I understand. Yeah, I completely understand. He had vengeance on his brain at the same time. He's like, we're going to help everybody, but we're taking over the world. Let's go.
Isn't like the whole point of Killmonger, though, that he was kind of right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what he's saying. He's right, but his world domination kind of got in the way of that.
Cool motive, still murder, but
kind of. It's the intersection was just not agreeable. That point.
It's T'Challa's interpretation of that, like his moving forward, his message of Wakanda, like opening up to the world, giving them resources. It's the same thing, but on the next level with Cap, because he's actively helping someone that he knows. One that obviously he trusted. Steve Rogers and Sam too, because of what they went through.
Well, and to hang on that continuity and consistency thing, Steve Rogers was the only other outsider that T'Challa respected.
Yes.
He shook his hand. He didn't ask him to bow to him. It was get this man a shield. Like when he knew the battle was coming to Wakanda, and he saw, listen, they're greatest warriors here with me. You saw them running together, leading from the front, because they're just so much stronger and better than everybody else. They have to lead the fight. So yes, if the new Captain America is Sam Wilson and T'Challa has made the promise to help black people around the world, it all falls into place. Yeah, it all falls into place. And yes, we are speaking as if T'Challa, as if Chadwick Boseman is doing his thing, but we all understand that in essence, T'Challa is still alive and is still running Wakanda.
And who knows what the future will bring, but I feel like as of right now, we can say that character is,
And even if he did pass away, the character of T'Challa, his legacy still exists.
And Wakanda still exists.
Shuri would still be like, I'm going to fight for like what my brother believed in.
Yeah, and his spirit will always be there in the spirit realm.
Yes.
So I'm sure, like Shuri, if she did take up that mantle, would obviously have the opportunity to speak to him once more as well. Obviously, I'm not saying we're going to expect to see that on screen, because obviously
no. Well, they've changed the direction of Shuri completely from the Marvel comics. So
yeah,
in the comics, she's battle hardened, and we'd be able to see that she's capable of taking it in live action. But this version is, the kid who's into making TikToks and probably couldn't really, even though she fights in Endgame, you just don't see the battle hardened, the scowl, the permanent. Everybody has that stare, like Batman. All of them have that, like their eyebrows are like this. They just all have like that hard countenance, and she just too happy to.
I think Nakia would be a good Black Panther. Like,
Oh, she's
if
great,
someone
yeah.
would to continue
Or
that
Okoye.
role.
Nakia is Lupita Nyong'o. Ash.
Okay, thank you.
The one with
You
the,
saw
the
my
circle.
face. I was like,
the
wait a
disc.
second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
She's
thought so.
Okoye or Nakia, but I also understand if they,
Okoye would be
yeah,
cool.
someone else. But back to actually that great point about the senator getting his ass handed to him. He tried to play, which is obviously the Republican Party here. I don't know how it works in England. Which you're conservatives, okay? So they're questionable. Who's going to pay for this? How are we going to do this?
Right.
You know?
Yep.
And it's like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not spending any of my money.
It's like,
and
look at the world right now. It's like, yes, the planet is going to be completely fucked in 60 years, but it's going to cost so much money to fix it.
Right,
Who's paying for it?
I don't see why we need to change anything. We could just go right back to normal. It's no big deal. And it's like,
and also it's the
yeah,
but you don't understand. In my position, this is really hard work.
This is more complicated than you can understand.
Yeah, your little brain.
It's like, well, no. It's like, no, it's not. You better go rethink things then. Yeah, it's time to go rethink things.
I appreciate it when it's like, shit, you could move borders if you want. Like, you have that power. And he
said you have the power. Yeah, he saw you have the power to do things. And I was just like, do you hear that?
And you're just as powerful as Thanos.
That's right. He's like, you guys can
misguided teenager.
Right. Snap of your fingers, you can do something. All it takes is a pen stroke and done.
And that's what I think.
Done, you know?
That's what I think. Even though obviously Steve Rogers was inspiring, there's something very particular about Sam and his inspiration. He makes people feel like they can be better. We see that in like you said, the moment when in the helicopter, when he rings up the woman, he's like, hey, you can fly this helicopter. We're going to work together, okay? And when she saves it, he goes, great job. Like, you did it. Like,
and she calls her a name, too.
Yeah.
He says, great job, Isla. Right? Like, he remembered that bit of information. Yeah.
And, yeah, like, he works with them. And like he said, like, yes, obviously, this is a Marvel project, so the political nature of it is complicated, and they're not going to be able to solve it completely. But I'll be darned if I didn't want to help support the notion that yes, we can do better, and that we can work together to create a better world. I think for me, that's.
I think there's this thing in. It's really easy to fall into nihilism and stuff like this. You know, like there's no point. But the only way that like things are going to change is if people try to make things better.
Yes.
And I understand that it is way more complicated than that. And there are systems in place that affect people. But I do think it's a very admirable thing for Sam to be like, all I have is the hope that we can be better. And that's what I'm going to do. Like, that's what I've got.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty good.
I think going forward, here's what really needs to happen. Sam's diplomatic skills are great. He's perfect. He already has a great outlook. He has the background and the foundation of helping people with words and communication. That's his thing. He just needs to learn how to fight better.
Yes.
It's time for him to it's time for him to turn into the A-list hero, because he's not a sidekick anymore. He just inherited a sidekick, okay? And he's got a family now. He's got a team, because he's got Mr. Torres hanging around too. So he can use him. He's got a mentor in Isaiah Bradley who can be like, let me show you some things.
He's going to have a protege.
He's got a protege coming in Eli probably. Yes, you're right, dude. Like, the roadmap for Sam Wilson is nice. It's a nice looking thing. He needs to pick up some fighting. Him and Bucky need to go a few rounds so he can fight a super soldier consistently and know what it's like to fight a powered individual. Maybe go to Wakanda, get his ass whipped a couple times down there, get shot some things down there. Maybe relearn how to use the suit even more if the suit has certain properties in it.
I think this definitely was Sam didn't have a lot of time to train. We saw him doing that montage, but what's that, like a week tops? Like,
right, and he didn't have the suit on either, so it was like And we all knew the suit was coming.
He put on that suit and then immediately flew out.
And he's like, I got to go for it. So yeah, that's for me. That's pretty much how it goes. That's what it looks like. It's like, okay, man, your diplomatic skills are great. Your ability to stand in, in case he gets called in for a court martial or a hearing or something, he should be his ability to stand there with cameras on him and the heat of that moment. He's good. He's legitimately good. He's only going to get better at that. But he needs to learn how to fight now. It's time for him to go visit Shang-Chi, hopefully, and have Shang-Chi be like, look, man, we're going to teach you some other stuff. Just let's improve on the fighting skills and the shield wielding, and I think we have a better Captain America than what we got with.
I recommend following, if you don't already, anyone listening, Mark Bernardin on Twitter, who is a really great writer, one of the best out there. And he said exactly that. He shared an article from 5 days ago from blacknerdproblems.com, which is it's about time we acknowledge that Sam Wilson can't fight. And Mark Bernardin himself wrote this big, great thread that has caused ruptures, obviously, in the fan community, because people,
of course,
how dare you consider talk about that? And I think he makes a great point. Like at the end of the thread, he says, "Some of you are like Steve Rogers knew nothing before the serum, and then had a war to teach him how to fight." And he put, "Listen, Sam Wilson had the Civil War, an Infinity War, and an actual war in Afghanistan, and he still got his ass kicked by Patroclus Leaper."
It's different. I think it's different because Sam is. We see his style of combat before. He's in the air. He's firing guns. He's it's a different kind of thing. I think it's totally reasonable to be like, yeah, Sam, you need. But I think that's the great thing. This is what I liked about this was kind of an element of WandaVision I enjoyed as well too. These shows, the way that the Avengers were before, are no longer there. Yeah. The original Avengers got their kind of, and then we're going to see it in Hawkeye too, because I imagine the end of Hawkeye is going to be like Clint fully handing the mantle over to Kate. Just because, Black Widow's dead, Thor is doing his own thing. And that Thor wouldn't be around if Ragnarok wasn't super successful.
Right.
I would love it if Thor comes back in whatever next Avengers film. Sam is Captain America. Rhodes is Iron Man.
Wanda is like... floating in the air.
She's the full Scarlet Witch, just like, hello, Thor, and her eyes are like fully white.
Yelena is Black Widow.
Yelena's Black Widow.
And Kate is Hawkeye. And he doesn't mention, and he just thinks it's the same people.
Or he just looks around the room and he sees Brie Larson's Captain Marvel and he goes, "Oh, at least you're here."
I think like a lot of these shows, like I imagine Armor Wars is probably going to be a very similar thing. It's about the kind of next generation, right?
It's an origin.
It's phase one again, right? We're setting up. It's phase one with context, I guess. Like we're setting up Sam as Captain America. We're setting up Wanda as the Scarlet Witch. We're setting up, Hawkeye, Kate Bishop as Hawkeye. We're doing this. We're doing that. Loki's whatever the hell he's doing. I don't know. But yeah, so there's that element of like they're setting up stuff for the future.
Yeah, we need Raven Bosses. We need White Vision to return Doctor Strange. Again, I'd love it if Thor's like, Vision, my friend. He's like...
And Vision's just like, hello?
Who are you? He's got like this blank stare. Yeah.
Did I just die like not long ago? Well, I think we've talked for so long. I think we should wrap up this great conversation by sort of giving our final surmised thoughts about this incredible show. So, Ash, what are your final thoughts on this?
It was great. It's not my favorite MCU thing that's ever existed, but I thought it was solid from start to finish. It had its moments of awesome greatness, and it had its moments where I was like, okay. But I think as a complete thing, it's great.
Bess?
This was pretty good. I knew going in that we were going to get like a totally different look than WandaVision. I can't wait for the full like weird thing from Loki. And this thing tackled issues that it was supposed to tackle. They were staring it right in the face as they wrote the show, as they shot the show, as they produced it, wrapped it, and put it out for us. So, yes, awesome.
Yeah, I think I agree with both of you. I think overall I really enjoyed the show. Was it perfect? No. I think one of the reasons is obviously everyone's always gonna have issues with certain things. I know I had like nitpicky elements on stuff, but I think for me as well, like what I found really like what I love about this show, and also I think what I love about WandaVision, is that these are the, like you said, actually the origins of these new characters and seeing them develop. And more than that, it's given the opportunity for both not only Wanda and Vision to like flesh out their characters, but now we've got the same with Bucky, with Sam, with like Zemo, with Sharon. Like we've got the opportunity to expand these characters who I think going forward is going to expand on so many different stories and different ways and implement stuff. And again, the wider world, the wider picture, it affects other stories and other things, and we can theorize and stuff. And that's what makes these shows, I think, so important. Reverend Bob says Marvel are submitting this drama as a drama for the Emmys, which I think is a great idea.
They definitely should do that. I think they're doing the same thing with WandaVision too.
Yes.
And if there's any justice in the world, Elizabeth Olsen will win something.
Yeah. And I think Wyatt Russell should definitely get praise for his performance, especially in episode 5. That courtroom scene, I thought was a really great performance from him. And I'm really excited that
of course, Mackie, I think, is just...
Oh, I mean, like, when I think about Mackie, like, on such another level, that he's already, like, he deserves all the love. The behind-the-scenes love and appreciation for both those two actors as well, I think is just commendable, and I thought really sweet.
Are we giving our accolades for the acting and all that?
Yeah, I was just thinking about, because Raving Bob in the comments says that Marvel are submitting this as a drama for the Emmys. So we were just talking about our favorite performances, and I think I was just saying, like, behind the scenes, I thought was really nice. Obviously, the love between those two actors, and when on Friday when Anthony Mackie put a post up of behind the scenes, Sebastian Stan commented in different comments, like every word as a different comment. I'm with you to the end of time.
Because I'm with you till the end of the line, pal.
Oh, that's great, man. Yeah, well, I could easily see them submitting, Sebastian Stan, Anthony Mackie, and Wyatt Russell for sure.
Yeah.
Even though the U.S. Agent's arc was streamlined, stuffed, and really fast, it was like boom, 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 boom. We're just all of a sudden, and then all of a sudden he's redeemed, and he's, like I said before, but we already talked about that. He still acted and embodied the character for me. He brought
that
the character.
Phenomenal.
He brought the character to life. He brought the ideals, the tact, the everything that is written in his thought bubbles and in his but the talking in the books. This guy stood up and brought it all out of those pages, and that's great. And then again, we've been with Sam Wilson for 5 movies now, and he's always been a helpful guy. He's always been there for everybody. He's always been a certain, and Anthony Mackie's just kept the consistency. Yeah. He's kept the consistency from, meeting Steve Rogers and getting run around out there on the Beltway, on your left, and it's still the same guy. He's still there. He showed up to help as the Falcon, with strafing with his wings and and his AK, his little mini Mac 10s, and
it's
just shooting.
Like Steve and Nat just rolled up to his house, and he was like, "Sure, I'll help you."
He's just like, "Let's do this thing,"
And you know that he was like in the Avengers compound in that 2 years or that year between Civil War and Age of Ultron and Civil War, where like they're living at the compound. You know, he was trying to be like, "Hi, Wanda." It seems like you're really going through it at the moment.
And she's like, "Yeah, you can't help me, but my robot lover can, dude. So I'm good. I'll stick with the android. You go help the disturbed veterans over there."
You gotta know that Sam is like super. You gotta know that Sam is like super annoyed. He's like, "I couldn't break through to her, but the fucking robot."
Right.
I disagree. I think that as soon as Wanda turns around, Vision looks at Sam, and Sam goes,
"This is how it works. There was all a plan all along." And yeah, I see what Raving Bob put there about Julia Louis-Dreyfus as Val. I really, really, really hope we get so much more. Like I said, at the end of this whole thing, they left so much open, and we and they announced a movie, so I think we're gonna get Serpent Society, or at least another version of Hydra. You just can't. Those are major elements in Marvel Comics that we can't.
Or Dark Avengers. About.
That too. Maybe even in Captain America, we get introduced to the Thunderbolts. Mm-hmm. Hey, we're putting something together. Sam, Bucky, we need you to lead this team, and it's like Thunderbolt Ross. And Thunderbolt Ross, Zemo, Ghost. Instead of Goliath, they use Ghost and from Ant-Man and the Wasp. And they're like, yeah, we found a way to, control her stuff. And there you go. There's 5 of them right there. Boom. There's your incarnation, your first incarnation of the Thunderbolts. And that'd be awesome, man. I really think they're doing this the right way, or not even the right way, just haven't lost faith in him. Feige is doing a great thing. His understanding, his knowledge, and his ability to look at the source material, his ability to say, we have so much here. We can take elements. We can, they're using basically the Ultimate Comics, if I'm not mistaken, right now. Mm-hmm. Right? They're using like that era from like 2002 to like 2009, right?
Doing that, I think, from like the beginning, like looking back at like the Hulk. That whole element is from the Ultimate arc. No, that's okay.
My take on that is, I think they started out doing the Ultimates, and now they are. Look at like Hawkeye's costume in the first Avengers movie, and now they're like, we can lean into taking stuff from 616. I think that's I think they started out being like, this is okay. We're gonna do gritty and grounded, and now they're like, and there's the Scarlet Witch,
right? And that's cool. Because to introduce the mutants and how they look, you're going to have to go 616. You're going to just have to do, and again...
No more terrible black leather costumes, for the love of God, please.
No, and you know what? Have people walking around. Leech looks weird. You know what I'm saying? Leech looks weird. And that's it. Marrow looks freaking weird. She's got bones for eyebrows, dude, and bones sticking out of her. Let's do it,
Let Gambit have fucked up eyes, please.
Reversed, right? They're like, he's got albino eyes with like black, with the black cornea or something like that going on. It's like albino purple.
He's got black eyes with red pupils.
There it is. Yeah,
and he was like called the devil as a kid. That's like a component of his characterization. It always bugged me that they didn't have the guts to do it in the movie. Well, X-Men Origins Wolverine has like 1.5 million other problems.
Yeah, there's more problems than that. I think, but with the MCU, I feel like it's not the case that they're just like picking, in this case we'll just pick from the 616, or this case the Ultimates. I think it's the best storytelling or like visual elements that they will pick out.
You're kind of taking the best components from each thing, I think. Yeah,
like what I really love about the Ultimates comics is that in the 616 universe, most of the characters are built from the fear of the time. So in most of the characters would come from the 60s. So most of the problems and the elements come from the fear of radiation, the atomic bomb, like you said, the nuclear family, that all deal. In the Ultimate line, which was like the noughties upwards, it's all to do with genetic alterations. So all the main characters, all the superheroes, all the mutants, the Hulk, even Nick Fury, I think, got elements of this. And Spider-Man all stem from different attempts to recreate the super soldier serum. So I really like that they implemented that into this storyline, and we get to see a bit more of that. Yeah, I really love that, those different sections.
As long as they don't, my only issue is like, so with all the Fox X movies, when they say Days of Future Past, I kind of want to see Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
Not what they did, and it's like, at the very least with Avengers, they just say Infinity War, and they didn't give us like the crazy,
Adam Warlock isn't there.
Yeah, 7 to 9 titles where you got to follow everything, and then look at Infinity Watch 2 weeks from now, or pick up X-Men number 12 from, and you're just like, no, it's like, okay,
read
look.
Secret. What was one of those comics from Secret Wars that had a 50 million ties in? Secret Wars, Secret Love, issue number 1.
Yeah,
it's like,
and they're just like, okay. But no, what do? They just say, listen, there's these stones. We've introduced them. We've done this thing. This guy with the purple chin is on his way to pick them up and kill a lot of people. Exactly. Here we go. Enjoy. The Easter eggs where they just touch on some things here and there, perfectly placed, done perfectly. It's like, I don't have an issue with them taking elements from baseline Ultimates and then 616, and then there was a one shot where Deadpool did this, so let's put that in there, and then you're like, oh, that all works. That's the point. Feige's sitting there and he's probably saying, I want comic book fans, but I also need people that know how to write a script and streamline, and let's tell a story, and if we have to break it into 2 movies or do a mid-credit scene here or put something there, and everybody's just, I would love to be sitting in there. I mean, I think we all would. I think we'd all love to be like, hey, let's give me a job, Marvel. But they're doing a great job here.
There's a reason why Age of Ultron only takes the words Age of Ultron from the title Age of Ultron and not the story.
Right.
I feel like we're finally in a period of, because I'm not going to lie, after Endgame, I was like, it was also because we had like a year before any MCU things came out. It's kind of like, okay, maybe I'll watch this stuff in the future. I'm not going to get as heavily involved in it. And then WandaVision came out, and I remembered why I liked comics in the first place. Mm-hmm. And then this came out, and I was like, oh, now they're doing stuff I actually like. Yeah. Now they're not afraid to like do weird things.
Yes.
And we're getting Young Avengers, probably.
I think before we wrap up, Raven Bob says, what do you think Loki will be like? They can do literally anything as far as time travel goes. I think not just time travel. You got get to explore and delve into the realms of alternate realities and what it means to be a variant.
Right. I swear that right when I saw it, all I thought of was the Luc Besson movies, and like Fifth Element and. Mm-hmm. All right, wait. Am I saying the right guy? Is he the right director? I hope I'm.
I think so.
Or is it Denis Villeneuve? One of those. I just know
same kind of vibe.
The Fifth Element, Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets, or something like that. And when I saw the trailer for Loki, I was like, "Oh yeah, dude, we're getting all that Guardians and Ragnarok. Everything is just going to be aliens and colors." And yes, they can do a whole lot. I'm pretty sure
it's going to be alternate reality versions.
Oh,
of
yeah,
Loki.
They can do
We're going to get Lady
lot.
Loki.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, this Loki is not the Loki.
It's not. It's a
variant. Loki. But if I'm not mistaken, then does that mean it's the Loki that pulls the Tesseract in Endgame?
Yeah.
Which is not the Loki that got killed in Infinity War.
No, the Loki that's what I'm most interested about, and that's why I'm really interested about Guardians 3, because people are going to Guardians 3 going, yeah, it's the search for Gamora. It's going to be like the search for Spock. No. This is like if Spock died and there was another version of Spock that didn't live out.
Actually, no, man, they messed that whole thing up, Charlie, because she got on the ship, the version of her that hates Star-Lord.
She wasn't at the end.
She didn't go on with them?
Nope.
Nope. She wasn't there. Star-Lord looks forlornly at a picture of her.
Yeah,
Nebula's on the ship. That's interesting.
Okay.
It's really interesting that now the Nebula's like the good one.
That Gamora has not lived throughout any of the Guardians.
Oh, there we go.
And she doesn't. No, and she never will meet them the exact same way as it would have been, because Thanos won't be looking for the Power Stone because he's dead.
That's right. Okay.
And she's stuck in our reality now.
And then Loki. Again, this Loki picks up the Tesseract and is just like, and he's gone, and you're like, okay, where did that Loki go?
Yeah,
all right,
our Loki
this
said
is
this Loki doesn't know that his mum's dead. He doesn't even know that he has a sister who is also dead. He doesn't know that his dad's dead.
which means he finds out all that stuff and
Mhm.
he starts messing around. That's why the agency grabs him and they're like, what are you doing, man? We got to fix this stuff. Leading to King, leading to Multiverses of Madness. Yeah, Raging Bob. This is definitely going to tie a lot. I hope just tie a lot of the next 4 projects together that they have coming up.
I'm just hoping for something that's absolutely just. It looks like it's gonna be like this. It's just batshit insane. I'm ready for Lady Loki and Loki to be having a conversation.
I'm telling you.
I'm ready for Richard E. Grant to be old, creepy Loki.
Old Loki. He's gonna be old Loki. Absolutely.
I'm ready for Owen Wilson just existing. The fact that he's going to be in a Marvel property, I'm still like,
awesome. Yeah, we get Owen Wilson in a Marvel project, man.
Wow, Loki. Wow. I also the writer, I think, of Loki, the showrunner, was a major writer on Rick and Morty. So he's got plenty of experience of like comedic beats and delving into all the different alternate realities and different universes. So I'm really, really excited about what they do with that and how they delve in that. And again, like what I think is so interesting is what does it mean to be a variant? What does it mean to have different realities, different worlds to explore? And I really hope we get to see more of that. And I'm interested to see what they do with that element.
Yeah, because we've got 3 potential ways that they could tell that story with Loki, Gamora, and Vision. Vision is Vision, but he's not Vision.
Right. And he has that knowledge of everything that happened, but he's exactly. He's like,
but we don't know if he has the feelings associated with those memories, if he still is in love with Wanda, or if he's just like it felt like it happened to somebody else, right?
I can appreciate people being like, okay, well that, like when people complained about Endgame, they're like, well, everyone came back, so it's not the same. It's like, not everyone didn't come back. Natasha's dead; she can't come back.
Tony's dead.
Tony's dead.
Steve's dead.
Gamora and Loki, they're dead still. The ones we grew to know and love.
The ones we know are gone. Exactly. Yeah, they're not.
These
there,
are two different. Yes, it's Loki and Gamora, but they're 2 different people, and that's what I think Guardians 3 is going to be a big part about. It's maybe Peter recognizing that he can't just like assume that she'll be like his love because she died.
You know, it'd be really interesting if he like starts falling in love with somebody else, like Nebula or something.
Yeah, maybe.
And he feels really guilty about it or something. I don't know. That's where my brain goes with all this stuff because I'm a sap who reads too much fan fiction.
Pride.
Not against it. Okay.
Also, yeah, like you said, like Spider-Man, like pretty much Alfred Molina was like, oh yeah, I'm back as the same version from Spider-Man 2. So it's like, there's so much to explore in that. And it's like, what's the difference between a variant and a different alternate reality and all that stuff? And also, what if like there was like I think a poster that came out, like early poster that came out with all the different versions
I think
of the
so,
characters. And it says Guardians of the Multiverse. And I'm like, does that mean they're like
what does that mean? What does that mean?
But we've been going for about 2 hours, so I feel like people are probably sick of us talking about all different Marvel stuff for now. So that's all we've got time for this week, at least. So let's kick off. Let's do our plugs. Where can people find you and your content, Les?
You can find me on Twitter at LessIsMore78. And you can also find me on the Sith List that we release every Sunday on your favorite podcatchers. And you can also look for me here on YouTube on the Sith List channel. We do reactions to all the awesome shows, Falcon, Winter Soldier. We'll be jumping on the Bad Batch while we wait for Loki to come up. So, yeah.
Perfect. And what about you, Ash?
You can follow me on Twitter at AshJeffies, and you can listen to my podcast, which is Rogue Podron, which is a Star Wars Book Club podcast, and that's at Rogue Podron on Twitter or any podcatcher, just Rogue Podron. And I have an upcoming show coming up that I'll tell you about probably the next time that we're recording something. So that should be fun. Keep an eye out for that.
Fascinating. You can find me on Twitter at CMWASHBY and on Instagram at CharlieMWAshby. I host the Imperial Senate podcast, the quirky Star Wars podcast, which you can find on all podcasting platforms, as well as on Twitter at ImpSenatePod. You can support me on Patreon and Ko-fi with links to those found on the link in my Twitter bio. Speaking of Patreon, my other show, Batman Returned, is back with its second season. We'll be wrapping up pretty soon. We've got about 2 episodes left to go. Me and Alden just did the commentary for The Dark Knight this past week, which is such a blast, such a great time revisiting that film. And we're going to be completing that trilogy this upcoming week. So on Wednesday, that next episode will be out, and that'll be The Dark Knight Rises, which Alden isn't a great fan of. It's a film that I actually really do like. So it's going to be really interesting to see us both watch that film and see if we can revisit it and change each other's minds. But yeah, we've come to an end with yet another fantastic MCU project. So PonderVision will be taking a little hiatus until Loki arrives on our screens in June. But until then, let's all make ours Marvel. See you, everyone.